उत्तमम् देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्यति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So we'll begin the Harinam Chintamani. I hope you are able to hear. Hare Krishna. So yesterday we discussed the 9th offense to the holy name. Today we are going to discuss the 10th offense. Yesterday we discussed the offense of inattentive chanting. We discussed that how inattentive chanting is the obstacle for coming to the stage of Nishta, and without coming to the stage of Nishta, one cannot achieve the stage of Prema. And then we discussed that even if a person overcomes all the other offenses, and even if a person continuously chants, but still one will not get love for Krishna if he is inattentive in chanting. That means if a person does not take care of, if a person does not overcome this offense, even if he overcomes all the other offenses, still one will not achieve the goal of Krishna Prema. And then we discussed how inattentive chanting is the root of all the other anarthas. And Vishwanath Chakravartipad in the Madhurya Kadambini, he describes 5 obstacles to come to the stage of Nishta: laya, drowsiness, vikshepa, distraction, apratipatti. Apratipatti means lack of enthusiasm, and kashaya, previous impressions of anarthas while chanting, and rasaswada, desire for material enjoyment. And Haridas Thakur explains 3 types of inattention because of that, which act as an obstacle for coming to Nishta: audasinya, indifference, and jadya. Jadya means inertia or laziness. And then third is vikshepa, restlessness of the mind. So we discussed these 3 types of inattention and the remedy for these 3 types of inattention. And then we discussed that, okay, one has to, the opposite of like inattention is that eagerness for the holy name. How one should cultivate the eagerness for the holy name, that one should be diligent in completing the prescribed number of rounds one is chanting every day. And secondly, one should actually, one should not simply complete for the sake of completing. One should not be time conscious. One should try to do it qualitatively. and one should give up the desire to increase the number of rounds simply for making a show. And then we discussed that it is impossible to overcome inattention without the mercy of the Lord. Therefore, one should pray to the Lord for the Lord's mercy. These are some points we discussed in regard to the 9th offense. Today we come to the 10th offense. Let me just open the PowerPoint, 1 minute. The PowerPoint is okay. I think it will take a few minutes to get open, but meanwhile I'll continue. Yeah, we come to the 10th offense. This offense is called as the attachment to me and mine. Shrutepi nama mahatmye yaha priti rahito naraha aham mamadi paramo namni sopyaparadakrit. The low person obsessed with the conception of self and ownership, who, even though hearing the glories of the holy name, does not have any attraction for the name, is an offender to the name. Or put into simple words, that to put in simple words, that to maintain the material attachments even after hearing the glories of the holy name. That is what the 10th offense is. So you see that like many times, like in the course of in our discussion, like we discussed about this particular offense is the worst of all offenses. Like sometimes like that kind of description comes, but here also it is mentioned that this is the worst of all the offenses. One may wonder, how can the superlative degree be used for every offense? Sometimes when we discuss sadhu ninda, that time also we discussed like that. If you remember, when we discussed that considering the devata to be equal to or independent of Vishnu, we discussed a story from the Kaishika Mahatmya Ekadashi story, the Brahma Rakshasa, the conversation between the Brahma Rakshasa and that devotee who was going to sing the praises of the Lord. So, like each and every offense, like we might have discussed, oh, this is the worst offense, but that is how like each offense is described like that. So, for this particular offense also, it is mentioned that like this is the worst of all the offenses, because even after hearing the glories of the holy name, a person maintains certain material attachments, especially attachment towards me and mine. So the materialists, they sometimes take initiation, but eventually fall from bhakti because of this offense. Because of this particular offense. So therefore, by complete surrender to the name, this offense does not occur. Yeah, now I'm able to open the PowerPoint. Just share it on. Yeah, I hope you are able to see the PowerPoint. So by complete surrender to the name, this offense does not occur. So this offense is basically maintaining one's material attachments even after hearing the glories of the holy name. So let us take some examples from the Srimad Bhagavatam in relation to this offense, and then I will go through the points mentioned in the book. For example, uh, like having different material aspirations is not a problem, but maintaining them is something that is what this offense is about. Like for example, if you see the example of Dhruva Maharaj or Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni approached the Lord with a material aspiration to get a wife, and Dhruva Maharaj approached the Lord in order to get a kingdom greater than that of Lord Brahma. Both had material desires, but they did not maintain their material desires. Uh, Eventually, they went ahead. Dhruva Maharaj, when the Lord appeared, like he did not maintain his material desires, he was completely purified. And Kardama Muni also, at a certain point, like he took up the renounced order like that. So he did not maintain the material attachment. Many times we find in the Shastra, like for example, like last week I was discussing this verse in the Bhagavatam class. Ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanyah आश्चर्यवत् चैव मन्यः शृणोति आश्चर्यवत् आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति चान्य आश्चर्यवत् चैव मन्यः शृणोति. In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 30th verse, Krishna, after describing the Jiva Tattva, finally he speaks this verse. Some people see the soul as amazing. Some people hear the soul as amazing. Some people speak about the soul as amazing. And Shrutva Pyenam Vedana Chaiva Kashchit. Many times people, even after hearing about the soul, after speaking about the soul, after seeing the soul, still many times people do not understand the Jiva Tattva. So in that particular verse, the word Ascharya comes 3 times in the verse. Ascharyavat Chaiva Manya Shrinoti, Ascharyavat Pashyati. So the word Ascharya can be used for the person or the act of seeing or hearing, or the Ascharya can be used for the object of the action, that is the soul. So in that way, each line of the verse can be described in 3 ways. Some people see the soul as amazing, or some amazing people see the soul, or some people amazingly see the soul. Some people hear the soul as amazing. Some amazing people hear the soul, or some people amazingly hear about the soul. So here, of course, when we say Ascharya, amazing, you may not get the exact import of the word by amazing, but it's like, it shows actually, we can say the Ascharya also in this context, it has the context of rarity. That means like some very rare people hear about the soul. Some very rare people speak about the soul. Like how many people, when we suppose there is a discussion, there is a topic on, okay, we are going to discuss about the Jiva Tattva, Ishvara Tattva, etc. Most people are not interested in spiritual subject matters. That's why very rare people are interested in subject matter. Therefore, Ascharyavat, some rare people hear about the soul. In that verse, it's explained. But one of the things which is amazing about the soul is that even after hearing about the soul, even after speaking about the soul, many times people still fail to assimilate the knowledge of the soul. That means one may still act on the bodily platform. For example, Hiranyakashipu, he spoke about the difference between the body and the soul in order to pacify the lamenting relatives of Hiranyaksha. But after pacifying them successfully, he was a very eloquent speaker. In the sense, he spoke a philosophical concept of the body and soul, and then he gave a practical story to understand that concept. So he was an expert orator, And then after speaking that, he actually went to perform austerities in order to attain immortality on the bodily platform. So that is why this verse says that Ashcharivat, some people, even after speaking about the soul, one may act on the bodily platform. That's why Prabhupada says that in order to assimilate the Jiva Tattva, one has to get the mercy of the Guru, one has to live a life of austerity, truthfulness, and one should chant the holy names. Without that, one cannot actually assimilate the knowledge of the soul. Vadanti Vishwam Kavayosva Nashnaram. The fifth canto of the Bhagavatam, the residents of Bhadrashva Varsha, they offer prayers to the Lord. I think Hayagriva. In that they mention that in this world sometimes people see that their sons are dying or other people are dying, but even after seeing them, but they are attached to enjoying the property left forth by their father or by the son, and they don't try to gain a spiritual message about the temporary nature of the world. And this is the amazing nature of the Lord's illusory energy. Although people see, Pashyan api na pashyati. And even more amazing is that sometimes people speak about the temporary nature of the material world and the body, etc. But even after speaking about that, one may become attached to the temporary things. And this is the amazing nature of the Lord's illusory potency. So that means that is how the attachment to me and mind there, me and mind still remain, even though one may have the knowledge. So one may have the knowledge of the glories of the holy name. But when a person still maintains the material attachments, then a person is considered to be committing this offense. In the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam, in the Samudra Manthan episode, from the Samudra Manthan, Lakshmi Devi appeared. And Lakshmi Devi, after her appearance, she wanted to choose a suitable husband. And there is a few verses description where those verses describe the Swayamvara of Lakshmi Devi. And she was examining the different people present in that assembly. And she's thinking in her mind. And in her mind, she thinks about the certain good qualities of people. At the same time, they have certain limitations. Like that, she examines different groups of people, and each group of people, although they have certain good quality, but they have certain limitations and faults in other field. In that way, she rejects one by one each and every person present in that assembly, and finally she actually accepts Lord Vishnu, the faultless person, as her husband. So when she is rejecting different groups of people, one of the group of people which she rejects, which I want to mention in relation to our topic here. One of the group of people she rejects is that Jnanam Kvachit Tachana Sangha Varjitam. There are people who are knowledgeable in this assembly. But although they are knowledgeable, but they are not freed from material attachments or material desires. And when she is mentioning that, she is having certain people in her mind. Like for example, Brihaspati and Shukracharya, they are considered to be highly knowledgeable. Prithu Maharaj was compared to Brihaspati. Brihaspatir Brahmavade. Prithu Maharaj was equal to Brihaspati in his spiritual knowledge. Krishna says that Kavinam Ushana Kavi. Among the different Kavis, Shukracharya is the best among the Kavis. I represent the Shukracharya. Shukracharya represents me. So Shukracharya is highly knowledgeable, but although they are highly knowledgeable, but they are not freed from material attachments. So that is what we can see in this offense also. One may have the knowledge of the glories of the holy name, but one still maintains material attachments. Another example of the material attachment or the conception of me and mine is the example of Dhritarashtra. So when we see the attachment of me and mine of a child is very innocent, and it is only for a small area. Child is also attached to her its toys, but the child's attachment, that is very innocent, and that's not something condemned, because children are in the Annamaya Kosha. In that less developed consciousness, they think in terms of me and mine. And the attachment of me and mine exhibited by a self-realized person are in relation to the Supreme Lord. Like Janak Maharaj told Ram, I hand over my daughter Sita to you, and my daughter Sita will be your wife. So he had a possessiveness towards her daughter Sita. But this possessiveness towards the Lord or his consort, Lakshmi Devi, this kind of possessiveness is actually, it is actually in one sense that's the perfection of the life, to develop that possessiveness towards the Lord. Krishna is mine. In fact, this kind of possessiveness is the characteristics of a person in the stage of Bhava Bhakti. This kind of possessiveness, when you consider, oh, Krishna is mine, and you will see the whole world in relation to Krishna, because the whole world is actually nothing but the energy of Krishna. Then one will develop the consciousness of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. But on the other hand, the possessiveness exhibited by Dhritarashtra of a grown-up person towards me and mine, that is something condemned. That is something condemned. In fact, Dhritarashtra, at one point in there are various instances in the Mahabharata, like at one point different people were telling about, like before the battle of Kurukshetra, different warriors were telling, like Bhishma was telling that, oh, I can finish the entire war in 5 days. And Dronacharya said that, oh, I can finish the war in 10 days. And Karna said that, oh, I can finish everyone in 2 days. When each one was telling like that time Dhritarashtra said, actually, do you know the power of Krishna and Arjuna? Krishna is Narayan himself, and Arjuna is his eternal associate Nara. And Krishna and Arjuna, they can finish the entire war in the time required to blink our eye. That is the power of Krishna and Arjuna combined. Because they are playing the role of a human being, they may take more time. But actually, they can finish the war. They have the capacity to finish the war in a moment. And then he said, although I have this knowledge, but still what to do? I am attached to my sons. I am attached to my sons. Therefore, this is we can say Dhritarashtra is an example of a person who had the knowledge of the Lord. In fact, in another verse in the Mahabharata, he says that I have the Prajna Chakshu. Prajna Chakshu means I have the insight, I have the eyesight of insight. Means like I know, I get the insight of what will happen in the future. It's like, suppose somebody has the insight of what shares are going to go up and what shares are going to come down. Just imagine like how he can actually get benefit out of it. Somebody knows, okay, because now the market is very volatile. Somebody has an insight, okay, oh, these shares are going to go up and these shares are going to come down. So what a great benediction actually. In that way, Dhritarashtra, he had that Prajna Chakshu. He mentions it in a verse. But still he says, although I have this eyesight of insight, but still he was hoping that maybe my sons will I am hoping that may sons will become the kings. Like he had the insight that his sons are in the part of Adharma, they will be destroyed. But still, because of his attachment to his sons, he was always hoping against the destiny. He was hoping against the Daiva. And this is called exactly, exactly in relation to this offense. Maintaining one's material attachments. Another place in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada talks about the Kala Krishnadas. Kala Krishnadas was a personal assistant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who accompanied Mahaprabhu during his South Indian tour. So Kala Krishnadas, when Mahaprabhu went to Kerala, Kala Krishnadas got attracted by some gypsy women, the Bhattaharis. And Mahaprabhu had to go and actually bring Kala Krishnadas. He dragged Kala Krishnadas by his shika, and then he brought him back from the gypsy women. So Prabhupada says that Kala Krishnadas, he was in the personal association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Kala Krishnadas was, but still he got attracted to some women. So he says, one may be the personal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but if one is not determined, if one is not determined to fall down, then one will fall down. That means it is not that simply physical proximity to a great person is not sufficient. One has to be determined not to fall victim to different material attachments. That is why this verse says that, this offense says that even after hearing the glories of the holy name, one may still maintain certain attachments and shortcomings. One has to let go those actually shortcomings. Or another example which comes in the Bhagavatam is the Devatas, especially in the episode of Vritrasur episode. The story of the, that once Brihaspati entered the assembly of the Devatas, and then Indra, despite noticing Brihaspati, he did not respect Brihaspati. And then Brihaspati disappeared. And then as soon as Brihaspati left, then Indra realized his mistake of disrespecting his guru. Then he comes in the open assembly and he starts repenting in the open assembly. How I have actually acted like a demon because of my intoxication of the wealth and the power. I failed to respect my guru. And he actually repented. But although he repented, but after that, Devatas were defeated by the demons, and then the Devatas approached Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma told the Devatas that why don't you accept Vishwarupa as the priest, and then he will help you to regain your post and opulence. And then when Vishwarupa was appointed as the priest, and when Indra noticed that Vishwarupa was also offering oblations for the demons, Indra immediately beheaded Vishwarupa. So here we see that, like, previously Indra realized the mistake of disrespecting the Brahmana, disrespecting the Guru, and therefore he actually condemned himself right in an open assembly. If we read those verses in the 6th canto, 7th chapter, will appear that, oh, Indra is repenting really very seriously. Yeah, definitely there was some extent sincere repentance were there, but within that he still maintained a certain material attachments. That is why, because he still maintained certain material attachments, that is why when he saw that Vishwarup was actually offering oblations to the demons, without even inquiring Vishwarup, he immediately beheaded the Vishwarup. So that shows that in that episode, in various instances, actually the Devatas, what we can learn is that how the Devatas maintained their material attachments. And then later when Vritrasur was born, Vritrasur was tormenting the Devatas, and the Devatas, they started praying to the Lord in a secluded place. And then the Lord appears. When the Lord appears, again they offer beautiful prayers. And then at the end of the prayer, the Devatas ask that, oh, this demon is tormenting us. This demon is tormenting us, and please do something how we can kill this demon, how we can kill this Vritrasur. So in that section also there is a beautiful verse, like the Lord, when the Devatas offered prayers, they offered, though the prayers of the Devatas had a profound spiritual knowledge. The prayers of the Devatas were very profound, very deep actually. They glorified the Lord in choicest poetry filled with deep spiritual knowledge. The Lord was very pleased with the prayers of the Devatas, which are filled with the spiritual knowledge. But after offering such profound prayers, they still asked for something material, because they still had, they were maintaining their material attachments. They finally asked for, please do give our means by which we can kill this demon and we can regain our opulence in the heaven. And the Lord was actually not happy that the Devatas are still maintaining their material desires, and they did not ask for pure devotional service. Although they offered prayers in which they which contained deep spiritual knowledge, but at the end they did not ask for pure devotional service, but they asked for the means to regain their material opulence. Therefore, the Lord was unhappy. So in that way, the Devatas in that whole episode, they manifested this particular quality of maintaining their material attachments. And then the Lord told that, okay, you go to Dadichi Muni and you can get the Vajrayuda made from the Dadichi Muni's bones. And then they got Indra got the Vajrayuda made from the Dadichi Muni's bones. And then he was fighting with Vritrasur. Again, in the fight, initially he threw the Gada, and that Gada was easily caught by Vritrasur, and then Vritrasur threw that Gada back on the Airavata of Indra, and then Airavata went back and Indra fell down from the Airavata. And then at that time Indra was reluctant to throw the Vajra weapon. So again Indra became morose in fighting. So whenever a person is attached to me and mine, whenever a person is attached to the conception of being the doer, then one becomes morose or one becomes excited. One becomes morose when the opposite results come, and one becomes elated when success comes. So in that whole episode, Devatas represented that quality or this attitude of maintaining their material attachments. Another example, that the Narakasur, he had actually stolen, or he had occupied the holidays part of the Devatas, and he stole the earrings of Mother Aditi. So Indra came to Dwaraka and pleaded with Krishna, please do something to actually destroy this demon Narakasur. And Krishna went all the way to Pragjotishpur, that is the state of Assam, in order to kill Baumasur or Narakasur. And after killing Narakasur, Krishna took back the earrings of Aditi and personally went to heavenly planets and handed over to the Devatas. So at that time, Satyabhama liked that Parijata tree in heaven, and Satyabhama asked Krishna that, can I get this Parijata tree? And Krishna took the Parijata tree. So when Krishna handed over the earrings of Aditi, Indra was offering obeisances to Krishna in profuse gratitude. And then when Krishna took the Parijata tree, Indra became angry, and being instigated by his wife Sachi Devi, he started fighting with Krishna. So one moment before, he was offering obeisances to Krishna in gratitude, and one moment later, Indra started fighting with Krishna. How can a person do like that? That is because of maintaining one's material attachments. So that is the attitude of a karma mishra bhakta. So, like another example from the Bhagavatam is that Prahlad Maharaj and Kayadu both heard the Narada Muni's instruction. Kayadu was the person who heard directly from Narada, and Prahlad heard from Narada when he was in the womb of Kayadu. Prabhupada writes in a purport in 7th canto that but Kayadu forgot all the Narada Muni's instructions because of material attachments. But Prahlad Maharaj never forgot. So therefore, that maintaining material attachments is actually highlighted over here. So and also, if we see, like we can see in the light of this episode, we can also see the how the Bhagavatam is presented by Shukadeva Goswami. Like Shukadeva Goswami, how he presents Bhagavatam to Parishit Maharaj. He presents Bhagavatam starting from the creation pastimes of the Lord. He starts the Bhagavatam by, because Parishit Maharaj's question in the beginning was also how the Lord created. Shukadeva Goswami starts from the creation pastimes, and then Shukadeva Goswami describes the pastimes of the various other incarnations. In that way, he is gradually building up Parishit Maharaj's consciousness so that he can appreciate the pastimes of Krishna, the Purna Purushottam Bhagavan. And then in the 10th canto, Shukadeva Goswami describes the Krishna's pastimes, and then he takes the narration to the crescendo by describing the Rasa Leela to Parishit Maharaj. And then he describes various other pastimes of Krishna. And then in the 11th canto, Shukadeva Goswami describes the final pastimes of Krishna, Krishna's instruction to Uddhava, the major part of the 11th canto, and then the disappearance of the Yadu dynasty and Krishna. And finally, in the 12th canto, Shukadeva Goswami at the end, he describes about the names of the various kings. He describes about the various kings, and then he says that all these kings, like now only their names are remaining in the history. All these kings, they lost their opulence, they lost their position. Why he's narrating all these names of the kings? Because he wanted to remove the attachment of Parishit Maharaj, that he is the king. Just remember that all these kings have actually vanished in oblivion. So don't be attached to your identity as the king. And then finally, in the 12th canto, 5th chapter, before he departs from Parishit Maharaj, Shukadeva Goswami, finally he reminds that you are not the body, you are the soul. Why does he come to this point at the end? Because that it is in relation to like this particular offense, because one may hear many lofty topics. Shukadeva Goswami narrated so many pastimes of Krishna, and different incarnations, he narrated Rasa Leela, all these things, but at the end he comes to the very basic point of don't be attached to your body and your possessions and your identity as a king. Because many times we may hear very lofty things, but although we may hear very lofty things, but still, as long as we don't actually remove that anchor of the different, say, shortcomings or attachments, then we don't actually, we don't make progress. So therefore, expert teachers, although while presenting the lofty topic, then finally they come back to the basics, because because the attitude of the conditioned soul is that one may still maintain the conception of me and mine even after hearing the very lofty topics. So therefore, this offense is stressed as that this is the worst offense, and this offense is given emphasis here. So, like, how do we actually overcome this attachment to me and mine? There is one verse which gives solution, because there will be other verses. One verse which came to my mind. It comes in Dhruva Maharaj's prayers. Tena smarant yatitaram priyamisha martyam yechan vada sutta suhrud grihavitta dira ye tvabjanaba pavadiya padaravindam. In that verse, Dhruva Maharaj says that, because Dhruva Maharaj in the previous verse, he prayed for the association of the devotees. Bhaktim muhu pravahatam tvaime prasanga yenanja solbanamuru vyasanam bhavabdim. He prayed for the association of the devotees. And the next verse he says that why I prayed for the association of devotees is that when a person becomes attached to the devotees who are actually tasting the fragrance of your lotus feet, by attachment to the devotees, one becomes freed from the attachment towards me and mine. And which is what this 10th offense is about. That maintaining the conception of me and mine even after hearing the glories of the holy name. The solution given by Dhruva Maharaj is that one should one should try to become attached to the devotees. So yeah, going ahead. So Haridas Thakur, so in this regard, he talks about the 6 limbs of Sharanagati. He says, having given up the first 9 offenses, the devotee should cultivate full surrender to the name. And according to the scripture, there are 6 types of surrender, which are impossible to explain in detail here. In brief, they are mentioned as follows. So if you remember, I think one of the previous chapters also, I mentioned about the 6 limbs of Sharanagati. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshayishyati vishwaso, goptrutve varanam tata, atma nikshepa karpanye. Accepting everything favorable, rejecting everything unfavorable, and having faith that Krishna is one's protector, becoming dependent on Krishna, and thinking oneself as a low, unqualified person and insignificant. And then Atma Nikshepa, that is surrendering oneself, willing to do anything Krishna desires. And there is a book written by Bhakti Rakshaka Sridhar Maharaj. He is a godbrother of Srila Prabhupada. He's one of the very scholarly disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he was about to depart from this world, like there was one devotee who was singing some bhajan. He was singing very nicely, but Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that, please call for Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. Please tell him to come here. Please ask him to sing for me. So Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was not a good singer. He is not known for his good singing, but he was a very highly advanced disciple of Saraswati Thakur. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked him to come here and asked him to come and asked him to actually sing for him at the departure. So Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, one of the book he wrote is called as a Prapanna Jivanamritam. So Prapanna means a surrendered devotee. Prapanna Jivana Amritam. So Jivana Amritam means the nectar. Jivana is the life-giving nectar. The life-giving nectar for the surrendered souls. So in that book, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj has done is that he has taken the 6 limbs of Sharanagati, and then for each of the limb, he has actually quoted different verses from different scriptures, from Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, other Vedic scriptures, even some of the verses written by the other acharyas of the other sampradayas. So for each of the Anukulyasya Sankalpa, he has given many. Pratikulyasya Varjanam, he has given many verses. So of course, it's beyond the capacity of today to discuss all those verses, but each of that, because it will go into a different direction. But for each of the limbs, he has quoted some 25 verses, 30 verses like that. So Anukulyasya Sankalpa, he says, what are the different things favorable for Krishna? Sankirtan. So he quotes Cheto Darpana Marjanam. And what is the favorable attitude for performing Sankirtan? Tranadapi Sunichena. And then he quotes like other favorable things are Sadhu Sangha. Therefore, he quotes different verses for Sadhu Sangha. Like that. And then Pratikulyasya Varjanam. For that also he has quoted several verses. Like for example, he quotes a verse. The Devatas actually prayed in the 5th canto that one should not reside wherever the river of nectarian tidings of Krishna does not flow, wherever Krishna's surrendered devotees cannot be found, and wherever the grand festival of chanting the holy names is not conducted, even if it is heaven. So Devatas are talking about the unfavorable place to reside. Do not reside in a place where there is no Krishna Katha, where there are no devotees to be found, where there are no festivals of Sankirtan. Even if that place happens to be heaven, do not stay there if these things are, if there is no Kirtan, if there is no Krishna Katha, if there are no devotees. So like that, he speaks about different varieties of like what are the things which are pratikul. Well, another thing he quotes Gururna Sasyat, Sojanona Sasyat, that one who cannot, when the traditional guru and the guardians are found to be unfavorable, so they must be abandoned. That if the Kula Guru is actually unfavorable for actually serving Krishna, then he must be abandoned. That means like just like Bali Maharaj refused to follow the advice of Shukracharya because Shukracharya told him not to surrender to Vamana. The wives of the Brahmanas, they refused to follow the advice of their husbands because they told not to go and serve Krishna like that. Of course, we discussed previously how one should be culturally dependent but intellectually independent. Culturally, one may maintain the relations, etc., but intellectually, one should. The loyalty towards the dharma is a higher principle. Another things about the Pratikulyasya Varjanam, he says that suppose a blasphemy of the Lord or the devotee is being spoken about, one should immediately leave that place because hearing the blasphemy is unfavorable for one's devotion. So like that, he quotes various different types of verses for each of the category. For Rakshayishyati Vishwaso, that having the protection that Krishna will, having the faith that Krishna will protect. So Krishna's protection will come in various different ways. It will come. It will come in. I think sometime back there was a WhatsApp message was circulated. Jayapataka Maharaj's some lecture transcript was circulated. How Maharaj told the story of that. There was a man who was drowning, and then he was waiting for the protection of the Lord, and so many other people came to protect him through a boat and this one, but he did not take their help. But he said, "Oh, I want to be protected by the Lord." So the Lord finally said, "I only try to protect you through so many different ways." So therefore, Krishna's protection will come through so many different ways. So one of the way of Krishna's protection is through Krishna Katha. So Parikshit Maharaj, at the end of the Bhagavatam, when he heard that he has been cursed to die, and then when he gave up everything and when all the sages came, Parikshit Maharaj said that Tammopayatum pratiyantu vipra Gangacha Devi Dritachitta Mishe Dvijopasrishta Kuhakas Takshakova Dashatvalam Gayata Vishnu Gata. May you kindly accept me as a surrendered soul. Let Mother Ganges accept me as one whose heart is offered to Krishna. Let the serpent Takshaka come and bite me, I don't fear. But all of you go on singing the glories of the Lord. In that way, this verse is quoted in the case of Rakshayishyati Vishwasu. And then there is Goptrutve Varanam. Goptrutve Varanam means embracing the Lord's guardianship. Embracing the Lord's, accepting the Lord as one's maintainer, or embracing the Lord's guardianship. Like Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj quotes the Shikshashtakam verse, Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha, in the category of this Goptrutve Varanam. Or another verse, there are other verses quoted by him, that there is a verse which says that Kamadinam Katina Katida Palita Durnishedash Tesham Jata Mayina Karuna Natrupa Nopa Shanti. So a devotee prayed to the Lord, for so long I have obeyed the dictates of lust, anger, greed, madness, and delusion. Although I had been faithfully serving these anarthas for so long, but these masters, they never took pity upon me. And I never felt shameful in serving these different masters. And nor did I develop a desire to abandon these masters. But, O Lord, that now after all this, I have left them behind, and at last I have found my genuine sanity. And now I am surrendered fully unto your lotus feet. So please now engage me as your personal servitor. This was an example of Goptrutve Varanam. And then there is a fifth is Atma Nikshepa. Atma Nikshepa is a full self-surrender. Of course, in the slide, the sixth one is the Atma Nikshepa, are willing to do anything Krishna desires. That there's a Kulashekar Acharya, he says that Yat Kritam Yat Karishyami Tat Sarvam Na Maya Kritam Tvaya Kritam Tu Phalabhuk Tvameva Madhusudana. Whatever I have done and whatever I will do, nothing is my endeavor. It is all done by you, and you alone are the enjoyer of the fruit. So like that, there are different verses. And lastly, for Karpanye, Karpanye means utter humility. For that also a devotee, he says that there is no one parallel to me, my sinful criminal life. Everything that can be conceived of as bad is found in me. O Supreme Lord, I am even ashamed to come before you to petition. Please forgive my offenses. What more can I say than this? Ajamil word spoken by Ajamil is also an example of Karpanya. Ajamil, after he heard the conversation between the Vishnudutas and Yamadutas, when the Vishnudutas disappeared, Ajamil said that Kvachaham kitava papo brahmagno nirapatrapa Kvacha narayanetyetat bhagavan nama mangalam. Who am I? I was a cheater, a sinner, a defiler of my Brahminical status, a shameless wretch. And what is my position in comparison to the holy name of the Lord? The Narayan, the embodiment of all auspiciousness. So this word spoken by Ajamil is an example of Karpanya. There's a similar word spoken by Sudama. Sudama, when he was coming back from Dwaraka, he was remembering the way Krishna reciprocated with him. The way Krishna received him. Kvaham daridra papiyan kva Krishna Shri Niketana Brahma Bandhur iti smaham bahubhyam parirambitaha. I am the most sinful and destitute. So who am I compared to Krishna, the shelter of the goddess of fortune? And he knew that I was the unqualified son of Brahmana, but nonetheless Krishna embraced me. Indeed, this is the most astonishing. In fact, the same verse was spoken by Vasudev the leper. And the Vasudev leper, when Mahaprabhu embraced Vasudev leper, Vasudev, he became cured of his leprosy. And then Vasudev leper, he spoke the same verse spoken by Sudama, that he said, I was such a sinful person, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced me. So in this way, these are the 6 limbs of Sharanagati. So one thing which I want to mention is that, so out of the 6 limbs, especially on a sadhaka level, the first 2 becomes most important. When we do the first 2 things properly, then the other 4 things will develop in due course of time. The first 2 things, what is favorable, accept it, and what is unfavorable, you reject it. So every person has to actually, there are certain favorable and unfavorable things for everyone which are common. Like chanting the holy names is favorable for everyone. Association of devotees is favorable for everyone. And there are certain unfavorable things which are common. There are some things which are common for everyone, but some things can be person specific. Like for somebody, a certain favorable thing is that somebody is neglectful of some sadhana, or somebody is neglectful of some sadhana, he may be absorbed in something, like you may have to pay attention to that. Or somebody else, sometimes a person, in the name of sadhana, one is actually neglectful of some other responsibilities, then one has to balance that properly. Because when we say, like, because like in this, Haridas Thakur says that when he talks about the 6 limbs of Sharanagati, he says that surrendering to the Lord means like accepting the will of the Lord, following the will of the Lord, or whatever is the desire of the Lord and following that Lord. So when you say the will of the Lord, yeah, will of the Lord is one thing we say. One thing is that like following the different activities of sadhana bhakti. Another is that will of the Lord is also expressed through the laws of the Lord, or the system of the Lord, which the Lord has created in this world. So following that system is also actually following the will of the Lord, in the following the system of Varnashram. So sometimes for a particular person, somebody may be neglecting certain responsibilities of his life. So that may be one should address that. So, and for sometimes, for some people, it could be like spending maybe lot of time in WhatsApp, or spending most of the time in the mobile phone, and because of that we are not able to, that may be affecting our, maybe our devotional service. So we have to see, analyze like what is favorable and what is unfavorable individually, and then we have to accept what is favorable and reject whatever is unfavorable. So going ahead, then Haridas Thakur talks about the character of non-surrender. So the character of non-surrender is that one has the intelligence in terms of me and mine. So the character of non-surrender is exactly opposite to the 6 limbs. So one thinks in terms of me and mine, and one believes that he is the doer and the world belongs to him. And a person thinks that he is the creator of the destiny and the enjoyer of the fruits of the actions. And one believes that he is his own protector and maintainer. And one believes that he possesses a wife, brothers, sons, and daughters. So when a surrendered devotee, he performs the responsibilities, but in what consciousness, that I am the caretaker of my wife, children, and different other dependents on behalf of the Supreme Lord. But a non-surrendered devotee thinks that, oh, I am the protector of the wife, brothers, sons, and daughters. And then a person thinks that by my own endeavor, I can achieve all perfection and glory. So you know that there are that means a non-surrender devotee does not recognize the mercy of the Lord. He does not understand that Krishna is the protector. He does not recognize that Krishna is the maintainer. One thinks himself to be the creator, maintainer, enjoyer, like that. And then further, a person is proud of his own knowledge. That is also a symptom of a non-surrender devotee. So, and then he does not consider the Lord's control. And a person thinks that by his own brain, he can increase and extend the arts and science. I mean, like, by his own brain, he can achieve anything. Once Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to his home for lunch. He requested, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went in the afternoon. That means like 3 hours later or 4 hours later. And Mahaprabhu went, he saw the preparations which were made. There was like huge, so many long list of preparations which were made. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is one chapter in Madhya Leela which talks about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes prasadam in the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So he was invited in the morning by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and by the afternoon when he went, he saw like so many varieties of sabjis and pakodas and so many varieties of like shak, and so they were prepared. And Mahaprabhu asked that, how is it that like who prepared all these things? How is it that you prepared in a short time? Who prepared these things? Then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, he replied that the person for whom it is prepared, he only prepared this. Actually, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and his wife were such expert cooks. Like within a short time, they made so many varieties of preparations. But when it was asked that who prepared, he said that the person for whom it is prepared, he only prepared. So that means he gave the full credit to the Lord. So that is the nature of a surrendered devotee. And then a non-surrendered devotee, even if he hears the glories of the holy name, he does not believe in them. And if he happens to chant the holy name, he will chant the holy name only out of social custom. Therefore, this kind of lifestyle is a lifestyle of a pretender, and he will only get some material punya. So then Haridas Thakur talks about the remedy for this offense. He says that the deliverance from this offense is very difficult. And then particularly we see that there are certain common things mentioned for all the offenses, and there are as a remedy, and there are some things just specifically recommended for each and offense. Like for example, when we discuss the offense of considering the holy name to be equal to material pious activity, the specific thing recommended by Chaitanya by Haridas Thakur was that find out a Vaishnava who, from a low family, who is fully surrendered to the holy name, and then serve that Vaishnava, take his remnants. That is particularly recommended for that offense. Like for the inattentive chanting, some of the specific things recommended are like chant in the association of advanced devotees, in the Tulasi Devi, or sometimes chant in seclusion. For the considering the Shruti Shastra Ninda, or considering the Devatas to be equal to Vishnu, associate with the devotees who have knowledge of the Shastra and hear from them. Like that, some things are specifically recommended as a remedy for the offense. So similarly, for this offense, that which is recommended specifically as a remedy for this offense is that find out a Vaishnava who has got a genuine aversion to the material world, and who has developed the genuine aversion to the material world because of surrendering to the holy name, and take that Vaishnava's association and serve that devotee. And when we do that, then the concepts of me and mine will disappear. And the devotee who surrenders to the holy name giving up the attachment to me and mine, will receive the Krishna prema. So then, yeah, this is, I will just take maybe maximum 10 minutes. I hope. So yeah, the another point which I actually found, of course, this is not in this particular chapter, but this is another document which I found, because we are coming to the last part. This is a 10th offense we are discussing. Like we have come to the end of the 10th offense. So another thing which is mentioned by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one of his another book called as Bhajana Rahasya. So there he talks about 6 ways to move from offensive chanting to offenseless chanting, or 6 principles to follow. Manas samharanam shaucham, maunam mantrartha chintanam, avyagratvam anirvedo, japas sampatti hetavaha. So he mentioned 6 principles. Of course, these are 6 principles are not specific to one of the offenses or any of the offenses. These are 6 general principles to go from offensive chanting to offenseless chanting. So what are the 6 principles? The first is manas samharanam, controlling the mind by putting diligent effort. Manas samharanam. Just like we do physical exercise, we have to do exercise for the mind. And second is shaucham. That means having a pure lifestyle. That means like taking bath and wearing fresh clothes. In general, pure lifestyle, not only of course on a physical platform, lifestyle which is based on purity. And then third is that maunam. That means one should use the words carefully. So therefore, it is not about chanting, is not only about the 2 hours. It is about what you do outside those 2 hours also. Because apart from the 2 hours, suppose if you are critical of others, or if you indulge in prajalpa, so then that will also affect our chanting. Or if we don't have a proper lifestyle of purity, like Prabhupada says in the first canto purport, if a person hears Srimad Bhagavatam with rapt attention, one can see Krishna in the pages of the Bhagavatam. But one cannot hear with rapt attention if a person is not pure in his mind. And one cannot be pure in his mind. One cannot be pure in his mind if one is not pure in his habits. And one cannot be pure in his habits if a person is not pure in his activities of eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. In that way, Prabhupada talks about the importance of like purity of the lifestyle, how in connection with hearing attentively and chanting attentively. Another place in the 8th canto purport, Prabhupada says that like even with respect to occupation, one purport he says that agriculture and cow protection are the sinless ways of living. And when a person has a sinless occupation, then one can easily get attracted to bhakti and one can perform bhakti with determination. He quotes the Yesham Tvantagatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmanam, that verse. In that way, that lifestyle based on purity, of course, living in a city, working different where we have limitations to follow that, but to the extent, whatever extent possible, that living a lifestyle based on purity and observing maunams, using the words carefully. So all these things, principles are important. Controlling the mind. And the 4th principle is avyagratvam. That means steadiness, being steady in our number of rounds chanting. As like steadily chanting, whatever rounds we are chanting, doing it steadily, and also steadily chanting in a particular time, etc., or a time, place. And we may observe like sometimes there are devotees who chant in a specific time, specific place. So those things are also important. Like one day we chant in the morning, other day in the evening, another day we finish at 12 o'clock. So yeah, sometimes there may be exception, but otherwise one has to be steady in one's chanting. Avyagratvam. And the fifth principle is Anirveda. Anirveda means detachment. That means that sometimes if a person is not able to, like yesterday Krishna Bihari Prabhu asked the question, like some days I feel like chanting, some days we don't have that feeling. Like in the Harinam Chintamani classes started, okay, sometimes we may feel enthusiastic, sometimes it becomes boring, or sometimes we don't, our actually our feelings, we go through a, like sometimes it is good, sometimes we don't feel like, so that is how the Anishtita Bhajana Kriya. But one should not get carried away by those feelings, one should be detached from those feelings. So one day we are not chanted properly, and then okay, next day you actually again come back, you try to chant properly. One shouldn't get discouraged. Just like suppose a death happens in a house, it is called as of course it is called a sutaka, but there was actually sutaka, the word sutaka is specifically used at the time of the birth actually, but the actual word is mritaka. When the death happens, then the period of mritaka that goes for 10 days. 10 days, like one does not, I think, cook at the house, or one day, like one does not really visit other people like that. And there is a contamination period. So sometimes we chanted 6 rounds, and then we realized that, oh, I did not hear a single holy name. And then when we thinking about that, then the next 10 rounds goes in the Sutaka period or a Mritaka period, keeping lamenting, oh, I did not chant 6 rounds properly. And without, we keep lamenting about that. And then that lamentation period goes for the next 10 rounds. So one should be detached from, one should not be discouraged by sometimes when you are not chanted properly. Just like previously, some years back, there was a football match between the Indian team and some another country. So you know that India is not known for football. Sometimes like the qualifying match to qualifying, that they get eliminated in that itself actually. One match it was going on, and I think India was playing some European team or something, and European team that was not their, that was their maybe second level team or third level team, and they were playing against India. And Indian team, they were already losing by 13-0, something like that. And then in the last say 15 minutes, the Indian players were playing absolutely without any interest. And the press reporters especially pointed out that they did not, I think they did not actually talk about how the India lost actually, say 17-0 or something. They actually wrote about how the Indian team, they without any fighting spirit, they played in the last half an hour. That means like, okay, they knew that they were going to lose in a big way, but they did not put a fighting spirit in the last half an hour. That was actually that was highlighted by the press reporters. So similarly, sometimes, okay, you're not chanted properly, and then thinking about that, we don't chant the rest of the rounds properly. So therefore, one should be detached from those feelings. That is called as Anirveda. And the last principle is the Mantrartha Chintanam. Mantrartha Chintanam means one should remember the meaning of the holy name. So when we chant the holy name, we are asking the Lord, please engage me in your service. One should remember the meaning of the holy name. Otherwise, sometimes we may be chanting, and then when we get a service, we may avoid the service. That means you are only you are doing a lip service. That means please engage me in the service, but we did not mean that. So therefore, we have to remember the meaning of the holy name also. And then, so Vishwanath Chakravartipad says that when all the above six steps are practiced, the outcome will be offenseless chanting. Just like in a pan, there is a pan leaf is there, and then you put the chunna, I don't know what the chunna, the white color thing, and then there is different other things are put. And then when a person eats the pan, of course, we are not supposed to eat pan, but the example, when a person eats the pan, and then finally the tongue turns into reddish, into red color. But if we see the original ingredients, none of the things were red in color. The pan leaf was green in color, and the chunna was white in color, and other things were of different color. But the final result is that the tongue turns into red color. So similarly, that when all these 6 steps are practiced, the Vishwanath Chakravartipad says that the outcome will be offenseless chanting. Just like the different ingredients of the pan, finally it makes the tongue red. Like that he gives the example. So, yeah, the last section, this is the last slide. I'll just go through this. So far we discussed avoid the 10 offenses and the remedy for the offenses. So Haridas Thakur at this last section, he says that one should instead of becoming offense conscious, let us perform positive activities. So perform actions opposites to that of 10 offenses. So one way to avoid the 10 offenses is that performing actions opposite to them. That means instead of sadhu ninda, you cultivate a habit of glorifying the devotees. And instead of considering the devatas to be equal to or independent of Vishnu, cultivate the habit of worshipping Vishnu and respecting the devatas. And instead of disobeying the order of the Guru, and try to follow the order of the Guru. And Shruti Shastra, then the opposite to that is that praise the scriptures, glorify the scriptures which glorify the holy name. Or how the Vedic scriptures are bona fide, try to establish their bona fide nature, speak about the scriptures to others. And or a devotee understands the exalted position of the holy name, which is purely spiritual, completely different from the material means. So he seriously attempts to give up the desire for sinful activity. Instead of performing sinful activity in the strength of the holy name, but seriously attempt to give up the desire for sinful activity. And instead of preaching the glories of the holy name to the faithless, but try to develop the habit of discussing the glories of the holy name with the faithful. And try to develop the habit of distinguishing the holy name from the material pious activities. And then try to chant attentively and surrender completely to the will of Krishna. This way, perform the opposite of these 10 actions. The most fortunate soul in the 3 worlds is one who performs bhakti and gives up the 10 offenses. And then Haridas Thakur says that if a person performs sadhana bhakti skillfully, the creeper of bhakti will yield the fruit of prema. So he gives an analogy: liberation and material enjoyment are like the oyster, whereas the bhakti is the pearl which is within the oyster shell. Thus, the glory of the jiva is the attainment of pure bhakti. And if a person performs sadhana bhakti skillfully, one will attain the Krishna prema. And finally, he also says that one can never be relieved from these offenses by prayaschitta or by pious activity. The remedy for the offenses have been already been stated when we discuss the offenses. So continuous chanting with repentance will dissipate the offenses. So therefore, this point is like a common for all the 10 offenses, like chanting more and chanting more with a repentant attitude. If you remember that at one class we discussed about why the scriptures talk about the repetition of the holy name. So because we tend to commit offenses, therefore continuous chanting and repentance will dissipate the offenses. And apart from that, the particular recommendations were given as a remedy for each of these offenses. So Haridas Thakur concluded his discussion of the 10 offenses to the holy name by praying to the Lord, "Be merciful, Mahaprabhu, so that the 10 offenses do not enter my heart. Then I will be able to enjoy the nectar of the name." So in this way, we come to the discussion of the 10 end of the discussion of the 10 offenses. We have 2 more chapters to go. The last chapter is a long chapter. So mostly we will take 3 more sessions. Tomorrow we will not have the class, and mostly we should finish by Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So at this point, I will end the class. So just to summarize what we discussed today was that we discussed about the different examples from the Bhagavatam about maintaining material attachments. Different examples from the Bhagavatam: Indra, Prahlad Maharaj, Kayadu, Kala Krishnadas. And then we discussed about the 6 limbs of Sharanagati. We quoted some examples from some verses from the Prapanna Jivanamritam. And then we discussed about the character of non-surrender and a remedy for this offense of the maintaining material attachments. And then we also discussed about the 6 principles given in the Bhajana Rahasya for coming to go from offenseless chanting to offensive chanting to offenseless chanting. And finally, we discussed the positive action to avoid the 10 offenses. So instead of thinking about how to avoid the 10 offenses, one way to do that is that try to perform the positive activities opposite to that of the 10 offenses. So I'll stop here. If anybody has just 1 or 2 questions, we are already a little late. We'll take up. So I think we'll end the class here. So we'll again meet on Monday, the 14th chapter. Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.